Okay. Hi, welcome everyone to this Reinventing the Wheel talk brought to you by Garland Magazine and the Knowledge House for Craft. I'm speaking to you from Melbourne, otherwise known as Naarm, the land of the Wurundjeri people, and I pay my respects to their elders, past and present, and to the ancestors of the land where you come from. This is a very special event because it marks the 10th anniversary of Garland magazine, which began in Cheongju uh, for a biennale that Hyeyoung that we'll be hearing from was a brilliant curator of, and so Korea has been a very special country and source of stories for Garland magazine, and this features the work of Yujin, her collective Written Hands. So it's wonderful to have Yujin with us as well. And over time, we've gathered quite a large number of stories from South Korea. So it's been a really important source of inspiration for the magazine. And there's still a lot to learn, and it's still developing as a craft culture, as we'll hear. So it's a good opportunity to have a look at what is happening in South Korea today. So the Knowledge House for Craft is a global association of craft thinkers and makers, and we share ideas from across the world using the technologies such as this, which fate has gifted us. So it's the first time we can really begin to have a global conversation like this. And this particular series is imbued with the kind of hospitality of the house, welcome to people to hear views and ideas, to share information and feelings. And so that's why the Korean concept of Jeong was referenced. And I just wanted to share with you a thought from somebody who's unable to be here with us, Yujin uh, an artist from Cheongju, and she describes Jeong as one of the most uniquely Korean emotions, a deeply rooted sense of warmth, attachment, and care that builds over time. To me, Jeong feels like the gentle warmth from a fire, not quite the heat that heats up an entire room, but the kind that quietly warms the space around it. Now, they may not reflect necessarily Korea right now, which is going into, but no doubt, a humid summer, but I think it gives a feeling for the unique sense of hospitality that is very much part of Korean culture and that many of us have been able to enjoy and hopefully reciprocate here. Now we have two very interesting and important speakers to introduce their perspectives on Korean craft. Uh, Yujin, who's a curator and writer, she was part of a collective Written Hands, and the work that featured in the first cover of Garland magazine, Doril Dukta, was a fascinating project involving stones that needed polishing, so a very interactive one that I thought was very interesting. She's written and translated many academic essays and co-translated Dan Adamson's books, Thinking Through Craft and The Invention of Craft. She was curator for the World Ceramic Biennale Korea 2008 to 2011 and was executive curator for Icheon Ceramics Festival in 2013. And now, particularly, she comes as the editor of this new publication, Craft Culture, from the Korean Craft and Design Foundation. She's the editor-in-chief of that. So she can give us a sense of what a publication like this might contribute to Korea and uh, her perspectives as well on on that work. And then we have Hyeyoung, a dear friend, an honorary member of the Knowledge House for Craft, there as the foundation of our association. Also a Garland perennial, so somebody who's contributed a string of articles, stories to the magazine, has served as International Commissioner for the Gyeonggi International Ceramics Biennale in 2013, art director for Cheongju International Craft Biennale in 2015, as I mentioned. Taught at many universities, a judge of the Loewe Craft Prize, was Secretary General Korean Craft and Design Foundation, and is now Secretary General Korea Association of Art and Design. And recently she also helped Cheongju become a World Craft City last year. So, and there are many other things we could add to the list of Hyeyoung. We'd probably be here all evening to describe them. So let's start with you, Yujin Moon. Would you like to introduce yourself, and you have a short presentation to give us?
Oh, okay. Thank you, Kevin. Um, just let me share the presentation. Just a second, please. Uh, okay.
Yep, we can see that.
Okay. Do you see the
Yes.
picture? Okay. Okay. Thank you, Kevin. And I'm gonna read what I prepared for think um okay, I start. I'm sorry, I'm a bit nervous. So I'm gonna read what I prepared for this presentation. I'm happy to be here to share about my work with you today. To make sure I stay within the time, I'm going to read what I prepared. I'm working as a curator and writer in the field of art and craft in Korea. And now I'm working as an editor of Craft Culture, a quarterly craft magazine published by the KCF. And I've worked both inside institutions and independently in contemporary art and craft through making exhibitions, writing, and publishing. Um, well, as I already said, I'm a bit nervous to talk about my work in front of such experienced expert in Korean craft, especially in front of Hyeyoung Cho. She is a, great person in Korean craft field. But Kevin insisted and invited me to do so. I will try to briefly share a few parts of my practice. So, um, I studied in university science of arts, art theory and art history. And I started my career in 2007 at the COSEF, Korea Ceramic Foundation, and have since worked in various institutional contexts, including Asian Art, AAC, Asian Art Center, ACs. Yeah, Asian Art Center in Gwangju. This experience gave me a broad understanding of how public systems and artistic practices intersect. Since 2011, as Kevin introduced, I'm working as an independent curator, collaborating across disciplines to organize exhibitions, performances, and research-based projects. And since forever, I was attracted to something hybrid and undefinable identity. And I often feel like I often find myself someone who's stuck in the window frame, meaning someone who is caught in between, half inside, half outside. In my personal life and in my work career, I feel the same way. So now let me briefly introduce a few projects that show different aspects of my curatorial work. So there are 6 of them, but I probably skipped some of them. So this exhibition was held in Paris during the IAC event, and it was designed to reframe how we understand the Korean contemporary ceramics by positioning Korean ceramics at the crossroads of tradition, modernity, and global artistic discourse. Rather than in reinforcing nostalgic or symbolic image of Koreanness, 한국성, or what is Koreanness, it invited viewers to see ceramics as a dynamic and evolving medium that communicates across different Jeong, craft design and contemporary art and architecture in space and anything. So it was divided into 4 sections: traditions alive, studies on form, expression of materials and in space. So tradition and form, materials and space, to explore how Korean artists reinterpret tradition, experiment with form, and push material boundaries and activate spaces. In this exhibition, I wanted to challenge both the internally, in Korea, the internal conservatism, and externally from outside, exotism surrounding Korean ceramics, aiming to situate Korean ceramics within the broader conversation or broader perspective. And next project is 돌을 닦다. And 돌을 닦다 was actually initiated by a Korean ceramic artist, Park Jong-hong, who lives in Berlin now. And it is a participatory performance project where people are invited to sit down and doing nothing, just polish a stone. In Korean, 돌을 닦다 literally means to polish a stone, but also it sounds like the word for meditating or cultivating the self. So it gives the act polishing or meditating layered meaning. So with Park Jong-hong, we made this project in various places in Kyoto and in Seoul and Wrocław in Poland. And we also worked with sound artists and photographer and guest collaborators. So this was in Poland. So our goal was to rethink and expand what ceramic practice can be, not just as a form or technique, but as a shared and sensory and sometimes silent experience. So we are interested in how ceramics can respond to both current discourses and direct encounters with the public through cross-disciplinary approaches. We are now planning new versions of the project in collaboration with even other ceramic artists, hoping to connect with even more diverse audiences. Yeah. And the next it was not a craft exhibition or craft project. It was Hope as interrogative. The full title was Hope as Interrogative. Was project collaborative project between young artists from Korea and Japan, seeking the power of poetry through art. I initiated this project after reading a Jainichi writer, 서경식, his book, Shino Chikara, meaning power of poetry. Beginning it's long, I mean, long, but eventually it became only 2 years, but we planned a longer journey. So first in Kyoto, the project was held in Kyoto Museum, Kyoto Culture Center, Kyoto Culture Museum. Yeah, I'm sorry. And the project invited Japanese artist and poet and young designers and audience. So it reinterprets the philosophy and politics explored in the book, 서경식's book, through different kinds of media, such as graphic designs, sound, painting, and moving image, participatory performance, music, and installation. So drawing on the work of poets who lived through times of despair and violence in the beginning of the 20th century, Hope aimed to rediscover the relevance and strength of art today. The project was held in Kyoto and Seoul from 16 to 17 in the form of exhibitions, performance, talks, engaging audience in both countries. So a performance in Kyoto with a Japanese musician, and this was an exhibition view in Seoul. So there are all kinds of media and a series of performances, talks, and participatory programs were held for 17 days. So yeah, that was the sketches. And the polyrhythmic was also a contemporary media art exhibition and held in the frame of RTA Festival. So RTA was a name given by the organizer, real-time art. And it explored genre-defined practices in contemporary art through the exhibition and a series of live performances. So this exhibition featured Korean, Japanese, French artists, and the live performance features 10 artist teams who experimented with the concept of real time using diverse materials, moving image, sound, dialogue, yoga lessons, and light, scent, and narrative. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So this was the view. And Tochi. This was a project called Tochi Doram, Tochi Dogam. In Korean, Doram refers to the exhibition part of this project, while Dokam represents the publishing side, catalogs or books. So each edition of the project, Tochi, was presented both as an exhibition and as a publication. The idea behind Dochi was to help people experience the unique um, charm of ceramics, not just by looking, but by encouraging the joy of collecting and living with these objects in their lives. Each edition of Tochi is shaped around a specific theme and introduces a multidimensional view of contemporary ceramics. So this, you can see the book and the object in the logo of this project. This is a review on the first edition, Imaginary Animals or Specious Companions. During this project, we also hoped Dochi could spark more critical writing on ceramics while making high-quality Korean ceramic works more accessible both locally and internationally. So we translated all the text into English. And I didn't prepare the images of the second edition, Mighty Wonders. And this, yeah. Actually, originally we thought that Dochi could continue for 5 years. 5 years. So it's a 5 year series. And we made a significant initial investment to build it up, but due to various situations, circumstances, we were only able to realize 2 editions over the course of 2 years. So, yeah, it's pity. And the final project. This was an exhibition called Samul Samul. So I made a subtitle, Inimitable Minds Traversing. It was all about rethinking how we see and experience contemporary ceramics or crafts. As you can see in the title in Korean, 사물사물 also asks how we might look at contemporary craft differently. Like, I thought we were looking at contemporary craft as like within a fixed image and imaging or feeling in inherited emotions or fixed emotions or familiar narratives that often dominate craft discourse in Korea. So rather than fixed into or reinforcing those frames, this exhibition invites a more personal and subjective way of understanding or experiencing craft works. So to do that, I invited visual artists whose creative processes unfold outside the conventional territory of crafts. The artist who could see the craft or ceramic object from a different perspective and develop their own interpretation with their fresh eyes. So in a way, this project was an trial or an attempt to revisit the work of established ceramic artists through a new lens shaped by different material, emotional, or generational experience. And here, revisit doesn't mean rejecting tradition. It's about searching for a new dimension of meaning of each work or each artist. So as the title suggests, 사물사물 sees art as both a meaningful object and a gesture of translation where something is carried into a new space of personal imagination and interpretation. So the personal interpretation was the key word. So in the title, the first samul refers to meaningful object or contemplate things. The second samul refers to transcribing things or moving the idea. So the title captures the idea that art isn't just about making beautiful things, but it is about carrying meaning and translating the world through individual perspective. So I invited three mid-career ceramic artists, Kim Sang-man, Lee Young-ho, Lee Eun-bom, very famous and everyone knows them, to create new works that really push the boundaries of their own materials and styles. So they created all new works. At the same time, I invited the three visual artists, Kim Kyung-tae, photographer, Jo Sang-hyun, process designer, and Kook Dong-wan, painter, and who made a drawing. So they respond freely to those ceramic works by ceramic masters with their fresh eyes, not as craft experts, but through their own artistic and different lenses. So the result of this exchange was a series of new pieces that reflect, transform, and expand the original ceramics into unexpected sensory experience. So even myself, I didn't know what will be the result of this experiment. So it was a kind of invitation to look closely, not just with our craft people's or curators' eyes, but with our own thoughts and feelings, and to carry this object into our own personal worlds. And writing has always been another important work for me. And I try to write in ways that ask questions and open up new lines of thoughts and connect art and life in a meaningful way. And translation is also a big part of my practice, though these days I don't have much time for it, but I really enjoy it because translation is a different kind of writing, and it's challenging and difficult, but deeply engaging and interesting. And also it is both intellectual and literary work, so I am very interested in translation work. And all of the projects I mentioned earlier have been accompanied by publications. So exhibition catalogs or related books or textbooks. Some haven't been published yet due to the budget issues, but for me, critical writing and publishing have always been essential to any curatorial project. So they are not just catalogs focusing on images, but they were text-driven books. And that naturally led to editorial work as well. And now I am making a magazine dedicated to contemporary art. So we launched Craft Culture just last summer. The magazine Craft Culture reflects the kind of hybrid thinking I've mentioned throughout this talk. and hybridity that I explored throughout my practice. And with each issue, we try to create content and features that connect craft to other fields or to everyday life. And we try to open craft we try to invite a wider audience, both now and in the future. So that is the basic direction we have. And a few days ago, I was invited by a young curator to take part in a conversation for an exhibition titled The Future Craft. It was very interesting. And I'd like to end this this presentation, by briefly sharing some thoughts I had on that day. So I wrote the text, and so this is what I thought about craft on that day. And if I make a summary, I thought craft needs more love. It's not about drawing lines, it's about building connections. So that was what I thought preparing this talk today too. So thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Yujin, very much. You certainly fulfilled the spirit of Jeong there in your final sentiments. And I think it's very interesting that you, in your curation and your writing, look at the experience of craft, or the experience more generally. And I think that seems a very distinct element in Korean culture and Korean craft in particular. I think of all the biennales and the triennales that occur there. I think Korea must have more biennales and triennales per population than any other country in the world. And they all have very strong themes, like look at the themes for Cheongju here, tools for conviviality, the geography of objects, and so on. Often quite utopian themes, themes to be to aspire to, that connect to it. It's not. It's interesting because Korean craft is very virtuosic. You never. It's the quite extraordinary craftsmanship and skill that goes into it. Yet at the same time, through the institutions, that there is this strong connection that it makes with people. And I think it'd be great if you could join the conversation later, Yujin, but I think now it'd be good to hear from Hyeyoung Cho, who's had as much to do with these biennales and triennales as anybody. As I mentioned, as an artistic director of the Cheongju Biennale, as many ceramics biennales, and also the Tongyong Triennial recently as well. It'd be good to hear from you, Hyeyoung, about why it is that Korea has this very outward kind of interest in connecting with the world.
Yes, hello everyone. It's really good to be here. I'm kind of a coming from a different approach. People kind of think that I am very difficult, but really, I'm not very Korean. That's the whole purpose. And I have a view of this from a different perspective. And for me, I think that's very important because Korea is based on a Confucian community and society, which is very much about academia. So we often have the academias kind of segregating all the different talents. This I experienced when I first arrived in Korea in the 1990s. it's much better now, but before it was very serious. I mean, even to work in a studio, you need to come from a certain university. And I think that was part of all the problems because people from a lesser kind of status university had very little opportunity. And it has been my job to kind of break away from that because I studied in the UK, I studied ceramics, and upon arriving in Korea, I was seriously shocked by the fact that the colonial effect was still present and much of the theories were about Yanagi, Suetso Yanagi, and Bernard Leach. And even today, it has not, I'm sad to say, it has not moved on from that. It needs a more critical view stating what Yanagi did in the positive and negative way and how we kind of developed from that with all the influence coming from America, and later on, in the turn of the millennium, from Sweden, from the Scandinavian countries, from Europe, and more on. And I think that is what makes Korean craft very interesting, is that we are quite flexible in accepting these influences. And the introduction of all the biennales was a political kind of approach because in the turn of the millennium, the regional governments needed to survive on their own and they needed to find a cultural kind of genre where they could receive funding from the government so that, they could develop each region with a cultural theme. So Gwangju, with its Gwangju Biennale, is focused on contemporary art. Cheongju with the Craft Biennale, because of the location in Cheongju, which is like the center of the South Korean peninsula. It is a kind of a crossroad, and surrounding it, there are a few kind of origins of like craft making and so on. So Cheongju decided to do craft, and then Gyeonggi, because of its history with clay, naturally was a choice to do the ceramic biennale. So, I mean, it's very difficult unless you really know much about Korea, but on the surface, I think it looks very effective because compared to other countries, due to our craft-orientated approach, I think we do have this talent. Even many of the famous contemporary art people like Do Ho-seo, Lee Bul, and Yang Hek-yu, who are now doing exhibitions in major art museums and galleries around the world, are all material focus. And because I come from the material focused background, for me, I think Korean art craft is essentially about how to handle the materials. So based on that, I'm becoming a bit of an oldie, and I have a weight on my shoulders to actually set a role model for people like Yujin and more for young people. I'm always encouraging for young people to do whatever they can to enhance and enrich our field because based on their academia background, there is still a lot of kind of discrimination, especially for, women and more. So my work has been mostly about survival, how to survive in the field. So like Yujin, I have worked in between genres. So I also have a son to bring up. As you know, we have to make a living. I am very lucky because of my ability to speak fluent English. And with the fluent English, it's not just about English. I have constantly been studying. So in the early part of the millennium, I also worked as a writer for the Art Rata Asia. And this was about interviewing famous Korean artists. I hope you can see the images. And through this, it was a great learning process for me to also introduce Korean art around the world because this was so difficult at the time. Hardly anyone knew or had anything published. I'm sure Yujin had experienced the same. So I thought I would write for art rather, and so I did interviews with famous people who were working with North Korea, called Jun, who I found very interesting. And also, after one interview, the mechanism with this magazine is that they recommend the next artist. And J also recommended um, the famous Park Chan-wook's brother, Park Chang-kyung, film director Park Chan-wook. So I interviewed Park Chang-kyung, who is very much into shamanism. And yeah, it was really interesting. And I did this for about 4 years. There are numerous articles floating around on Google if you type my name. Yeah, and then I wrote a book together with, I think, about 12 different curators around the world on Korean art. And my focus was on the influence of academia on contemporary ceramic movement. And this was published in 2018. And it was with really famous curators from the British Museum, Boston Fine Art, Metropolitan, and so on. So it was a very important project for me because as a curator, you're always required to explain yourself and describe what you do, and to be able to be on a par with these kind of famous people, that was a great privilege for me, and I was very honored. So this is also available. It's a great book, gives you great insight on Korean art overall, based on museum collections. And then last year, for the first time, I think because of my Loewe Foundation influence, you would think that because Korea is so famous with the craft history and tradition, many Korean companies like Samsung or LG would be sponsoring. Actually, this is the first time that a Korean company did something to preserve the traditional diminishing arts, and it's a game company. It's a global game company called Nexon, and I exhibited at the Toksu Palace, and we chose about 10 traditional arts and two contemporary artists. And the theme was to use their game images to align it with the traditional craft. And I had to come up with a story of using a compass, doing a quest in the palace, but at the same time looking at traditional craft. And it was handsomely supported that many of the traditional artists were paid for the material and for their work. And I was very proud to do this project. Then, as I said, because I have to make an earning, I work between contemporary art and craft, and I did a project with a very famous French artist called Felice Verini to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the DDP building. The previous year, because of Free Soul, I also did a public art project with a contemporary environmentalist artist called Dan Usher, talking about climate change. You could see the borealis or the northern lights anywhere if you can make it up. Tongyong, as Kevin mentioned, was a kind of urban rejuvenation project where we're looking at Tongyong and the shipping company and its kind of shut down empty spaces. I created a theme on craft and also the environment, and it included media art, installation, craft, and also contemporary art. And it was a very exciting period because the theme had to be very focused on the regional city, and I really loved that. So this is it. And we also talked about AI. And this was a media art uh, piece, which was streamed at the Korea Craft and Design Gallery. The whole of the floors There's a large wall, and I used it as a screen to do a interpretation of the Tongyong kite, which was used in 1592 as a sign used by Admiral Lee to say fire or not fire. And the media artists interpreted that theme through a digital art wall. And then, of course, the Loewe. As you know, craft has been very slow and thought of as being kind of never changing. The Loewe intervention has been not only for Korean craft a sensational kind of transformation because it is the market taking interest in craft. And this has opened up new avenues, especially for Korean artists, because while compared to Japan, the Japanese craft artists have been exposed since the 1950s to the global scene. Korea is now facing what happened then because many international galleries are now wanting Korean artists. We have 35 finalists, and among the 35 finalists, we have one winner, the horsehair lady. And then in 2017 and 2018, I did an exhibition at the Victoria and Albert Museum. This is actually my second exhibition at the Victoria and Albert Museum. The first, I assisted my professor at Ewha Women's University on a large surveying touring exhibition of contemporary Korean art. This exhibition was made possible by the diplomatic relationship between France and Korea. So I did the exhibition firstly at the Fondation Bernadotte in Limoges. And this was not just including ceramic artists, but the theme was ceramics. So I included paintings, photographs, even soap artists, and more. And the curator from the Victoria Albert Museum came and took it to show in their museum. So this is what you're seeing. As you know, the moon jar is kind of a symbol of the Korean culture, and it has been interpreted in so many different ways. So that's you're seeing part of the Fondation Bernardo exhibition. And Cheongju, as Kevin mentioned, again, at the time, it was to show the various different strands of development in the contemporary craft movement. So I try to include as many aspects as even using 3D printing, digitalized craft, and also the coexistence of craft and contemporary art. I just want to share with you very quickly another file, which is, let me see, I think, I don't know if we can get internet. Okay, I'll just go quickly through this. Can you see?
Yeah, yeah, just quickly so we have time for
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah, so anyway, so these are some of the projects that I've done. That's Cheongju. I just wanted to show you the Cheongju, the different approaches. Yep. And I did the craft trend fair in 2016 and transformed it into a complete shopping kind of approach. And these are other things like Kanazawa Craft Week in London, which I've been attending since 2014, Milan in 2017, and this is the first ever project I did with my professor. Okay,
Thank you
that's
so
it.
much, Hyeyoung.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
it's quite interesting to see the parallels between your career as a curator and that of Yujin Moon's. Obviously, yours is very much engaged not just with Korea but with Europe in particular, which is very interesting to put Korea on the stage. But I wonder, Yujin, if you could perhaps reflect on Hae-Young Cho's first comment about Confucianism as being a source of resistance or hierarchy, because your practice seems to be the antithesis of that to a degree. It's very Taoist, perhaps its approach to experience and present. But do you see Confucianism as a trait in Korean culture that you have to resist? Do you find it, particularly in the academic sense?
Mm. I agree with what Hyeyoung Cho mentioned at the beginning about the narrow academical perspective about on Korean craft, and the not the Confucianism, the colonial things, you know? And about Confucianism, maybe yes, we have to a little bit resist to our Confucianist culture because craft is an art also. Craft is all about making and hands, and there is no hierarchy in craft, I think. In craft, in a real craft or the craft we have to pursue, there is no hierarchy between hands and um, making and thinking. But in Confucianism, there is hierarchy. So in that sense, maybe we have to resist to this kind of perspective influenced by the Confucianism. Yeah.
Yes, I remember Hyeyoung Cho, your talk in this series, one of the first talks on the influence of the university in Korean craft, particularly ceramics. You mentioned the recent introduction of craft masters into the teaching, a recognition that they also had something to offer in an academic context, which was quite important.
Yes, so that lecture was actually the basis of the book that I wrote with the curators, and it's an ongoing research, which I find quite fascinating and very influential on the kind of results it has brought to contemporary ceramics. There are different strands, not just contemporary ceramics, but in all of our craft, because there are those who had studied abroad after achieving a university degree in Korea. They would be going to the United States because at the time funds were given for anyone who wanted to study in the US due to our diplomatical agreement. So much of our contemporary craft has been influenced by what happened in the 1970s in the US. Um, and then there was the strand where they were just reproducing traditional craft. So passing on the tradition. So there were there's a system called designation of intangible cultural assets, which is issued by the government. Just speaking of ceramics, many of the university professors, when the departments were being set up, I know for sure Ewha Women's University had a celadon maker of I think 3 to 4 generations, and he actually set the research center. And then for Hongik University, they had an American professor. So Hongik was very progressive already. And Seoul National, the founder of the ceramics department was a design major. So the approach was very, very different. But many would go to Icheon to learn the skills because after the Korean War, we were left with nothing. So everything had to be built, and the president passed a law stating that we needed to recover the cultural aspects of Korea. So much of it is all based on that. But today, it's more kind of merged. So the division has been blurred, and we are learning from each other, and we also acknowledge the differences. Only that many of the heritage preservation kind of masters are now no longer in existence because they are dying, And what to do in the future is another dilemma. I think this is something we all face with the heritage crafts, you know. So like that, and young people are now more experimental. Only that now what we are facing is many university departments are difficult. They are because of also the reduction of birth rate. The people, I mean, every department used to have for the 4 years, 30 people in each year. Now we have something like 15 to 7. So that's a considerable, reduction.
Yes, indeed. We all hear about that. I think it's the lowest birth rate in the world at the moment. While we're still here, before we finish, it would be good to hear from Miss Sora Kim, who has arrived home. Thank you for staying with us. Could you give us a bit of a preview as to what we might look forward to with the Cheongju Craft Biennale that's coming up later this year?
Okay, thank you, and thank you for having me for this huge event. And I listened to the two presentation, and because I'm a little bit familiar with those two projects, so I was really enjoyed the presentation, and especially though I worked with the Hyeyoung in 2015, which was 10 years ago, and it reminds me of a lot of memories and the good feelings about the project. And actually, we are having our 14th edition Craft Biennale. We are really proud that we are still continue even after the 25 years since we first started Biennale in 1999. And as Hyeyoung mentioned earlier, actually it was part of the government's, the Cheongju city's government intention to become more cultural city, because we didn't have much resources to become a major city in Korea. So I think the starting point of the Biennale was quite, we didn't expect that it will last this long, and we became quite influential nowadays. So it's really honored that we are considered to be somewhat important in contemporary crafts. And because of the help of the many professionals, including Hyeyoung and Kevin, actually helped to become a Cheongju as a craft city. And we had many participants and many help from world-renowned professionals. And today, this year, our theme is 세상 짓기. This concept is actually connected to the concept of the Jeong, I guess, because this 짓기 has a lot of meanings in Korea. So when we say 짓기 in Korea, we refers to the directly making, but it also has a lot of other meanings as well, like preparing food, or the crafting garments, or the building homes. This jikki has a lot of means, and I think our director, this year's director Kang Jae-young, wanted to show that the many concepts and many activities we nowadays do is related to the craft, and she wants to expand the view about the craft in to audience. So I also have a lot of big expectation for her project, because actually today is the D-100 day for the opening of this year's Biennale. So I actually just saw her briefing, and I think it will be another enjoyable event this year. And we actually are really very happy, because we are now this year we has a Thailand as a first guest country, as a guest country participating from the Asia, because this so far we had the European countries guest exhibition, and this is our first time to showcase the Asian country contemporary exhibition, and you will expect very exotic and very dramatic installations and the crafts from the Thailand. And we also have another cultural exchange exhibition with the India and England and Korea. So this project is sponsored by the Hyundai Motors Company, and this specific exhibition focus on the three countries' textile artists. So you will see the result of the three countries' artist exchange, cultural exchanges, and how they influenced each others. And this will be the
I'm sorry we've just lost you there, Sora Kim, but that sounds wonderful. I must say, as an editor of a magazine, uh, uh, hearing of so many of these projects that are so unique, but otherwise often not known in other countries. I'm very keen to ensure that at least they can be shared through Garland readership and other means so that we can enjoy the very interesting ideas and practices that are revealed in these exhibitions and events. We've gone a bit over time, but I'm just wondering if anybody else here has anything they would like to contribute to the conversation about craft in South Korea or craft generally. Okay, well, I wanted to thank Yujin and Hyeyoung very much. 감사합니다 for your contributions. And it really is just really the surface, I know, of what's happening in Korea. We haven't talked about the Seoul Museum of Craft Art, that is another major new institution in South Korea, alongside many of the other organizations. But I hope this is a way of beginning that conversation, and that a Korean perspective can be something that continues through the sort of conversations we have in the Knowledge House. And thank you so much for helping us experience the kind of hospitality of having different voices that enrich our conversation about making and the objects in the world. And thank you for your Jeong.
Thank
Hope
you.
to see you
Thank you
again.
Thank
so
you.
much. Today I'm doing the Finds Prize, and tomorrow we announce the new winner for Loewe. So look
Right.
out.
Oh, well, what